Okay, welcome to part 3. In this tutorial we're going to talk about how to kind of model and think about the framing of the walls on the second floor, the kind of lightweight wood framing construction, and then also begin to think about the cladding of that part of the structure and part of the systems. So I'm going to go into here first of all and start to model some of the walls of these interior spaces. Now over here, so I'm still on the layer of framing. Basically what we want to do is kind of model like a horizontal member along the bottom and top of the wall frame that would be like what ties together the elements. So I'm going to start by making a plane. This time just a 2D plane. And I'm going to frame out where the bottom of the walls is going to go. So just like that, we'll run it up on the inside of these long ones. Okay. If I turn that off real quick. So I'll select each of those 2D planes I just made. And you can either offset or you can extrude. Again, we're going to go to 1/16 of an inch. Make sure that solid is set to yes. And then we'll delete the input planes. Okay, so there's the beginning of the wood framing there. We'll do the same over here. Actually, you can even use a box. Just use the command box. Draw it up 1/16. There we go. And then over here, we'll have the same kind of situation as we do down here. So we have a wall, and then we'll have like a wall framing above, and then a kind of glass curtain wall, or I'm sorry, glass framing infill with some mullions and stuff below it. So I'm just going to draw a wall frame starting over there. And then probably the next best thing to do is to start to draw kind of the cladding. So if we start with, let's just continue to draw the framing. Now I think if I get too far, I'm just going to draw a line, mark it vertical, or hit the option vertical, and then I'm going to draw it up to where this wall is, because I want the rest of my walls to kind of match the height of that wall, which I had measured out at the beginning. Okay. And so then I'm going to do kind of the same thing as before. I'm going to draw a plane, use the option vertical, and I'm going to draw it from, I'm going to try and line it up. Oops. Where's the edge I want? There we go. Oh, I missed it entirely. So I'm going to try and, I'm going to try and line up my vertical joist with the floor framing. Or I'm sorry, my vertical wall framing. So I'm going to draw a plane, option vertical. I can't get this to work. Okay, let's just ignore that then. So I'm just going to draw a plane from here. There, and then I'll draw it right up to, okay, that didn't work either. Alright, let's just draw one on the end of the wall, and then move it to where we want it. Okay. So then we'll take that plane, move, hold shift, hit tab to constrain it to that direction, and then snap it to the middle of that floor joist. Okay, and then with this guy, I'll go offset, surface. I want to hit, now I'm offsetting to both sides because I have it aligned to the center, so I'll make the thickness a 32nd, turn on the option both sides. Okay, there we go. And then I'm just going to copy that guy a couple of times. All right. And because it's already spaced out correctly, I'm even going to copy it over to the other side. And then I'm also going to frame out the wall going the other way. And for that one, so again, I'll just use a plane, hit the option vertical. I'm going to start just somewhere. The end of my wall, draw it up to the right distance, and offset. Oops, I turned off both sides. Here we go. And then I'm actually going to use the spacing from my floor framing that goes the other way to define how these ones go. And with this one, I'll just use an array because there's enough of them. I think I want to go in the in the X direction. I'll just do like 10 or something like that. Leave Y to 1, Z to 1. And now we can use the existing spacing here as well. Oh, that wasn't quite enough. Just copy these guys. All right. Now, I guess, okay, let me do this. Let me finish this wall here. So I'm going to copy these ones. Again, I'm going to try and keep it lined up with the existing spacing, just for purposes of kind of consistency. There we go. So I'll borrow that spacing and then get rid of those. And then you generally will want to have like the framing go all the way to the end of the wall. So if you have one that's close enough, just move it a little bit further out, or if it's not close enough, just copy it. All right, and then we're going to copy from here the floor framing. Now I should mention, in order to get the top of our wall to line up with that guy, what we're actually going to want to do, so I'll select all the horizontal members that form the base of the walls. I'm going to type in copy. I'm going to hit the option vertical. I'm going to snap to the top of that bottom of the wall, and then I'm going to snap to the top of my. Actually, no, I don't want to do it that way. I'm going to snap to the bottom. Copy vertical. Snap to the bottom, and then snap to the tops. All right. We would even actually have another kind of layer of cladding, at least one layer, on top of the wall framing. So what I actually want to do is move the whole kind of wall framing down a little bit. And I'm going to do this just like I did with the CMU wall. So I'm going to hit Control-Shift on the keyboard. I'm holding those. Left click and drag, select all the edges. So I'm selecting the tops of the roof joists. And I'm also selecting the horizontal members that form the top of the wall. I'm going to hit Move, hit Vertical, and bring it down to so it's lined up with that. Then I'm going to move it one more time. Again, vertical. This time I'm going to bring it, 1/32 of an inch. Bring it 1/32 of an inch down, so negative, which will leave the spacing we need for the cladding that will form the top of the wall. Okay, so the top of our wall framing should be 1/32 of an inch below the top of our CMU wall over there. And let's see, what else? Oh, yeah, so this here actually wouldn't really happen, right? So the top of our door is, code for doors would be 80 inches. So we would have a framing member that comes in at the top of the door. Again, I could draw a plane like so. Actually, I could just draw a box. All right, move, vertical, And if the height of our door is 80 inches, let's see, 80 divided by 12 divided by 2. That's 3.333 inches. 3.333. There we go. That's the top of our door. All right, and then I'm actually also going to borrow that to frame out my my window wall over here. So first of all, I'm going to make a copy of this one to form the top of that wall. So I'll use the command rotate, turn on the option copy. I could scale 1D it to the wall, or I can just hit Control Shift and select the end of it. I'm holding Shift and Tab, and then I'll snap to the inside of the wall over there. And then I'm going to copy this guy. To right there. Did I do that right? Oops, scale 1D. All right. And bring it all the way across. And then I would copy, let me copy these guys, or a couple of them. Maybe just 3. Again, I'm going to use the spacing that already exists. And let's try to copy it from the floor. So I go to my midpoint there. All right. Bring it back in. And scale it to span between the two. There we go. Let's see if I got that right. Yeah, looks like they're lined up. Okay, and then I can just copy this all the way across. And here we would actually probably have an element that connects like that to bring it into the wall. All right, so I think that's a good place. So, I mean, the last thing we have to do also is kind of model the windows that we've drawn in plan. So I've got a window, I think, right there. And there's a window there as well. Plus we've got that window to do in the CMU wall. But before I get too far down that path, I'm just going to go ahead and start to model the cladding. So I'm going to make a new layer. We call this cladding. Basically, this is the kind of interior, like enclosure of the wall. You know, the insulation would mostly be inside of the wall, but then we would also have like a thermal barrier, and then the cladding itself, or the, so we should call this, actually we should call this the sheathing, which more or less is what's actually forming our like enclosure. And then the cladding itself would be sort of you know, like whatever material we choose to treat the surface with, you know, metal panels or cement board, etc., etc. Let's see here. So I'm going to start to model these just as planes. And we do need to think about the thickness. I'm just going to use a 32nd, I think. And I'm doing the outside first. See, vertical. So this one's actually kind of weird. So we would actually have cladding that goes all the way down. Is that correct? So from here to here. Okay, that makes sense. And then so for the outside cladding, we would actually be bringing it all the way down, kind of around the wall framing. This is why it's kind of important to model and you know, figure out like where the thickness of the material is going to go. Okay, because of things like that. So even though the, you know, like the wood framing, you would probably want to do just by cutting a bunch of sticks that are the same length. You know, don't necessarily need the laser cutter for that, obviously. But excuse me, we would want to model it so that we're knowing that we have all the kind of enclosure parts modeled with the right length and so on. So I could bring this guy across, so we're getting the right overlap over there. I would actually also have a piece of cladding right here, or sheathing and cladding. Okay. All right, and then let me do this one. Offset surface. Right, and then we'll do the same thing kind of as we did when we made these windows in the CMU walls. I'm just going to kind of draw some boxes to cut out from those planes to form things like windows and doors. Alright, so I'll just go Boolean difference, like that. All right, and I guess before, okay, let's also do the cladding down here. Oh, I missed something there. Okay. All right, so that's a good place to start. And then I would also want to add some interior cladding down here. So I'm going to draw a plane. Let's see. Maybe I'll just start by doing this. Move it down. All right, then we'll scale it. There we go. All right. So again, we're only skinning half of the model here. And then over here, this is also kind of important. So we would have you know, sheathing underneath. But I think it probably makes most sense to do that on the inside of the vertical sheathing. Like that. So then we would come back and move some of these edges down. All right, just like that. And I could cut out a little notch for this wall. Just do copy, in place, Boolean difference. Take one of those copies. There we go. All right, and then I'll draw a plane back here as well. All right, offset. There we go. So now we've modeled kind of that enclosure. And then finally, we would need to do the kind of interior, skin the interior, and do the roof. So before I get to skinning the interior, I'm going to model the framing of the roof plane here. Now I'm kind of wondering if my calculations are off. We want to have like a parapet roof. In other words, we want part of this wall to extend up above where the kind of roof plane and ceiling framing would go. But we want to have some space above the door, right? We want to have our ceilings be higher than the door frame. And we want to give ourselves probably at least 8 inches above the above that frame for our parapet. So what I'm going to do here, see, I'm going to grab my wood frame from my floor, copy it, vertical, and I'm going to bring it up to where my door frame is. So that pretty much makes sense. So I want to bring basically all that stuff up a little bit. I'm just going to adjust my wall to bring the top of my whole structure up like more or less 1 course of CMU, 6 or 8 inches. So I'm going to go to front view, hit Control Shift on the keyboard, and I'm going to grab all the edges that form the top of my walls. Then I'm going to move them vertically. Oops, sorry, go back into top view. Hit move, constrain to vertical, and 8 inches, which is 0.333. Okay, perfect. So now if we bring our roof framing up, we could even actually turn on our CMU score line so we can just line it up to that. So I'm moving, I'm hitting vertical, and I'm going to set it to there. All right, get rid of, well actually, what I'll do with this guy is move him in. And so the ceiling framing works kind of the same way as the floor framing, except that we want it to pretty much hit all kind of on the inside of the walls. It's kind of framed out just by the walls, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do is draw a frame all the way around, like so. Actually, this needs to move so it hits the inside, as does this. All right, so just like that, we would have a kind of framing system that goes around on the inside. Let me copy this guy over to the other side. Copy. And then I'll select my edges and move them right up to that. Like so. So that's how we would do the interior framing of the ceiling. And I'm actually going to copy this. Let's see here. Well, let me just copy this. So I'm going to do the same thing over here for the ceiling framing of this guy. So I'll select the floor framing, copy it, hit vertical, bring it up to that same level, like that. And rotate one of these, or you can even just draw a plane. Let's see, copy. Okay. And actually, what we might do, what we're going to do over here, I think, is just not copy the floor framing. So I told you the wrong thing there. We're going to actually frame it out in the other direction. Basically just because of how our model is built. If we had a bunch of sticks going this way that were kind of hanging out in space, they wouldn't actually stand up. And because this part of our model is the part that's unclad, we're just going to kind of do it in a way that makes sense, more so for the model than for the actual construction of it. Those are kind of important decisions to make in this process. And again, I'm going to try and copy my spacing from the other volume. All right. Get rid of that guy. Okay, great. So just like before, we have a kind of interior frame that meets all the walls, and then we have a series of members that span to form the ceiling. And then I think we have kind of everything framed out, which means we can come in here now and begin to model like the interior envelopes, or the interior sheathing, I should say. But I think I'm going to continue that in the following video. And I'm also going to show you guys how to model the window frames and stuff like that in the following video. And then finally we'll have one for like laying out all the parts and stuff like that, and the best way to do that. So I'm going to sign off on this one.